Hello everybody, it's Football-Oranje, your home of Dutch football. A preview of PSV against Liverpool. We're overdue a show. We're back into the second half of the season in terms of the Eredivisie campaign, and we wanted to preview this one as PSV go into this final Champions League game of the league phase up against Liverpool, who of course are top of the Champions League. So it's time to get somebody in who knows a bit about Liverpool, but also about their Dutch players that are playing so fantastically this season. We've got John here. John is from the Anfield Wrap. John, how are you doing?
Yeah, really good, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Good stuff. Yeah, let's get stuck in. So PSV against Liverpool. How are you looking at this then, looking from an outside point of view? You've won all these games. Surely it's time to rest some players against a Dutch side and, not take some key players in the plane.
Yeah, you'd have thought so. We're obviously still learning about the manager, who I'm sure we'll come on to, and how he approaches certain games, because it is his first season. And so with Jurgen Klopp, you knew him so well by the end that you knew how he'd approach certain games and certain situations. But with Slot, we're already understanding that he rotates a little bit less. He feels like if players are ready to go, then he'll put them in. He said he was the same at Feyenoord. And so, but this one, we are in a fantastic position, and we've got a huge league game against Bournemouth, who a few years ago you'd have said wasn't necessarily a massive game, but Bournemouth are playing really well at the moment, won 5-0 at the weekend and are on a great run, and Liverpool are going for the Premier League. And so you'd have thought that would take priority, but listen, I would be surprised at all if he does go strong again, because he likes players in rhythm, and they'll all want to play as well, not least Mo Salah, who loves scoring in the Champions League and loves his record. So I think most Liverpool fans would like him to make 11 changes. I think he would probably like to go full strength, and we'll probably sort of end up with somewhere in between.
Yeah, that's fair. I think from PSV's point of view, they have no choice but to go strong for this one. And they've got a few little issues with player selection. So Tillman, their best midfielder this season, is out injured. We've got the issue up front of Luke de Jong versus Ricardo Pepi, two strikers who like to score goals in fits and starts for them this campaign. And then in defence, they're missing Ryan Flamengo, who got a red card against Red Star Belgrade. And for me, that was not a sending off at all. And they're going to miss him without an actual replacement. PSV have been going this season with kind of two recognised centre-backs. I mean, they have got a substitute one, but he's fallen really out of favour, Armando Bispo. So it's going to be Boscagli, usually lining up with Flamengo, but I think it's going to be Jordi Schouten filling in that position there, a centre-back who's a midfielder by trade. And when he filled in after Flamengo sending off in the last Champions League game, it was a bit of a nightmare, actually. Couldn't handle the physicality of the Serbian-tied striker. Schouten is not a defender at all, but he is a class midfielder in those little spaces and the room that he gets. So I think that, for me, first of all, is a big alarm bell from a PSV point of view. When Liverpool lining up with their physical Premier League players, that is a big weakness from the get-go. And then not to mention the fact that Peter Bosz loves his attacking style of football. He loves to take sides on. However, he's got Mauro Junior and Richard Ledesma, who are both midfielders really by trade, and physically are not strong fullbacks. So even though Rick Karsdorp's back is more of a recognised right back, I don't think he comes in. I don't know if he's fit enough yet. So I think, John, to be honest, you should be licking your lips with who's going to play these, in their front three positions of Liverpool, because they're going to have a great time against this PSV defence.
Yeah, I mean, it was really interesting hearing you speak there, because I think one player who's almost certain to start is Darwin Núñez. He misses out at the weekend. He plays the two before that and does pretty well. And so you'd have thought he would start this one. He'll sort of come in and he's a handful, Darwin Núñez. He divides opinion amongst Liverpool fans and amongst football supporters, all around the world, really. But what he is certainly is, he's in games, he's all action, and I think defenders know they're playing up against him. So I think if, from what you were saying there, a physical threat and someone who's able to cause problems for defenders, he is certainly that. So I would have fully imagined him to play. And to be honest, for Liverpool, we are in a slightly better position injury-wise. There's probably 3 at the moment, and they're evenly spread across the team, which is if you're going to have 3 injuries is what you'd like. Up top, we're still without Diogo Jota, who has been a great player for Liverpool when fit, but his injury record, is a big blemish against him. He's out again at the moment, so he won't play. In midfield, Curtis Jones went off injured at the weekend, just before half-time, and listen, I'd be shocked if you see him, over the next sort of week or so. And then in defence, Joe Gomez is a long-term absentee as well. Gomez is the kind of player who'd come in for the game like this, and you'd feel like would deputise really well. He's Liverpool's longest-serving player now. He's been there. He goes even further back than Jurgen Klopp. He was Brendan Rodgers signing, and so he's been such a dependable player for Liverpool. And so you miss him in games like this when you want to bring in someone and not have too much of a drop off. But aside from that, Liverpool are fortunate with injuries, and so with the squad as deep as it is, we are lucky that we can make 4 or 5 changes, and you'll look at the team sheet and think, yeah, that's a really strong Liverpool side.
Yeah, I mean, before we talk about some of these fantastic Liverpool Dutch players that are in your side, because I know people listening will be keen to hear about those from a Dutch national team perspective. PSV go into this really, and it's not a dead rubber game. This new format is, or at least not from a PSV point of view anyway, it's not a dead rubber game. That the position in the league is still going to be important. So I do think it's important for them to have a good evening to try and get a win against Liverpool side, who have, of course, less to play for, but have been so fantastic in this competition. So I'm wondering if PSV can cause another English side some trouble like they have done in the past against Arsenal. Gave Man United a good game a while back. Leicester, less so in another competition a little while ago. But in the Champions League, PSV have had some good games, had some good nights in Europe, and are actually notoriously very, very strong at home. So, John, just get your opinion on this. Obviously being Liverpool, such a big club, and always a team that people want to get the scout from, always want to try and beat. How does this feel going to yet another side away in Europe that just want to get the better of you, even though they're not quite as good? They're going to raise their game for when Liverpool come to town. You've got physical threat from the likes of Luke de Jong in the middle and attack. You've got the wide threats. Noah Lang's going to be enjoying a battle against Alexander-Arnold if he plays. Talks about that. How does that feel yet again, having that trip?
Yeah, I think Liverpool need to go in with the right attitude, and I think that is key. And listen, Liverpool have been fantastic this season. They've only lost once in the Premier League all season, and completely unbeaten in the Champions League so far. That 100% record that everyone can see. So, on paper, it's a daunting task for PSV. And like I said, that we're able to make changes and 3 or 4. If you start making more than that, then it obviously does make us weaker. But I think we can make 3 and 4 or 4 and still be really strong. But the application does need to be there. And as I say, although this Liverpool team, have been really strong all season and record is really good, when the level sort of drops, or whether the intensity drops, they can look very beatable. And we've had games this season where we've started slowly and sort of crept back into them. And I think we call him second half slot sometimes because he's got them in at half time and sort of sorted them out. But against a team like PSV, like you said, the atmosphere will be there. It's such a big game. You can. If you find yourself sort of 1 or 2-0 down, going into halftime because your setup's not been right, or your application's not been there, or the other side have just come at you in a way that you weren't necessarily sort of expecting, then you can find yourself in a little bit of a trouble. So I think Liverpool do need to be careful, and whoever does take the field for Liverpool needs to sort of remember that really. That first of all, you need to match the other side for application and for intensity, because this Liverpool side isn't great at playing at 70-80%. They haven't quite sort of managed that really, like a lot of good sides, I've been able to really. We don't tend to, you come away thinking, oh yeah, we won that in second gear. It's not really like that, for Liverpool. We can obviously have periods where we're not going with hell for leather, and it's a calmer style than the Jurgen Klopp one. But I think we still do need to be at it, and so that would be my worry going into this game. With the kind of players that you talked about there. If we're not you don't necessarily have to at your best in terms of creatively or sort of on the ball. But if we're not, putting it in right in terms of our application, I think we could end up becoming a little bit unstuck.
Yeah, they do like to attack with pace, that's for sure, PSV, and lots of intensity. Before we get into some of these Liverpool players, then I just want to get a prediction from you, John, for this game. I think me personally, like PSV have conceded, put a stat out on social media. They conceded two goals in every game for the past 5 games for the first time since 2001. So their defensive record is not good at the moment. They aren't playing at their best. That's despite only having 1 or 2 players out. So for me, I think there will be goals.
Yeah, I was going to go for the 2-1 victory for Liverpool because I think they will really want to keep this 100% record. I think they'll be really pleased with it, and
Sure.
to be the first club in this new format to do that does lay a real sort of marker down. Really, I'm not quite sure on the prize money element for finishing top and stuff like that, but knowing the Champions League, it's probably sort of decent, and so I think that they'll be conscious of that a little bit as well, and so I think they'll want to finish on a high, and I think they'll want to set the marker out. So I think Liverpool will approach it right, and although I don't think it'll be easy, I'm going to go for a 2-1 win.
I'm going to go 40 Liverpool. I think it's just going to be too, but they're just too open. But PSV love to attack, and they will get chances. I know they will. So some of these players, then, do you think that Van Dijk, Gravenberch, and Gakpo would all start on Wednesday night, or if not, is it because they're being rested given their importance to this side now? Looks to me like all 3 are basically starters now. Gakpo was out of the team a little bit, but now he's starting every game pretty much.
Yeah, he's been brilliant for Slot, and he actually doesn't start the first few games of the season. The manager goes fairly settled, and he goes Diaz, Jota, and Salah, and he picks those 3 for the first few league games of the season, which was quite interesting. And then he was talking a lot about like him, out and out pace and people who can beat the man 1-on-1. And so we were wondering, what it was likely to be for Gakpo. But then once he got into the side, he didn't look back, and he's been very much in his favourite position, which is left forward. You guys will have seen him there, obviously playing there very much for his country, but also club football. Jürgen and Pep Linders, who your listeners will also know about, they tried to turn him into a central player and looked at him sort of as an heir for the Firmino role, really, and tried to use him there, and it never sort of quite worked out, really. We saw a little bit of him down the sort of left-hand side and also a bit of him in central midfield, but although we had sort of good games and his goal record wasn't too bad, we saw... We didn't necessarily, see sort of the player we're seeing now. The Slot's come in and very much seen him as a left forward and played him exclusively there. I can't think of even a minute of a game really when he's played, in the middle, and that's been really interesting. And he's grown in confidence. I think even Jurgen Klopp towards the end admitted that he maybe confused the player a little bit, and towards the end, maybe one of his regrets was doing that. But he's very clear about his role, and he's playing so well. And what's interesting as well is people might not realise he's such a popular player in the squad, and he's when you often watch these videos and players talk about who your friends, and everyone says him, and the little videos you see, he's such a popular player, and even the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold, who only looks like he's got 2 or 3 friends in the world sometimes, and one of them's Jude Bellingham, who loves Gakpo, and I know Curtis Jones does as well. So it's the Scouse guys and the Dutch guys and everyone in between all loves him. So he's such a popular guy, doing so well. So I think he will look to start him in this game, and I think because he'll know, the manager will know, so it means a fair bit to him. So between him and Luis Diaz on the left, I think he'll think, well, I'll give Diaz the rest and give Gakpo the go in this one with Nunes up top. Gravenberch has been an absolute revelation this summer and this season, and it's been phenomenal to see. Whether it was by luck or design or both, to move him back into this deeper midfield position.
What is it that he does really, really well that you hadn't expected from him before?
It's how he carries the ball, and I think that, and how he's able to he's got his back to goal and then suddenly opens up his body and moves away from players. And I think especially we were quite susceptible. We spent a couple of years being quite susceptible to the press, and when teams pressed our midfield, we were struggling with it. The likes of Henderson and Fabinho were great players for Liverpool, but once the legs started to go and teams started to press us, they were winning the ball off us and they were getting at our defensive line. He's playing as a defensive midfielder, and he's not Javier Mascherano, as you guys know. He's not that kind of player who is going to be coming out and with these amazing stats, but it is on the ball really, and he can take it in any position, and he doesn't mind if a man's on him. In fact, I think he quite likes it if a man's on him, because he just uses his body and turns away from him and he's away, and that's huge for us as well, because it just opens up the pitch, and he manages to commit men in a way that, especially if you're playing against teams who want to get men behind and kind of frustrate you, really, he opens up the whole pitch. And last year we saw a few signs from him in terms of, he was coming up with the odd goal and you could see he was a decent player. But this year he was a completely different player in this deeper role. And you could make an argument he's been our player of the season, honestly. And when you look at, the likes of how many goals Salah's scoring and the form of Virgil van Dijk, who I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about as well. That is something. He's been the best midfielder in the Premier League. I think there's only Caicedo at Chelsea who's got close to him, but Chelsea have gone off the boil a little bit. He's been that good, and we can't believe what we're seeing, and still so young at 22. The intelligence, the athleticism, everything he's got. He looks a complete midfielder, and it's great to see. And a lovely leaving present from Jurgen Klopp, who really believed in him and tracked him for years, wanted him when he left Ajax. Wasn't put off by the fact that it didn't happen for him at Bayern Munich, because he knew he was an elite player. And there's a story about Klopp when he talked about transforming midfielders, and he wanted one of them, and he said that a couple of years ago that these three transforming midfielders, he said it's Bellingham, Tchouaméni, and Gravenberch, and he said if you give me one of those, and he missed out on Tchouaméni to Real Madrid. We missed out on Bellingham, but he did get Gravenberch, and unfortunately for Klopp, didn't get the benefit of him, but Slot's getting him at the moment.
Thank you so much for talking about Gravenberch as well. Like we saw him at Ajax coming through as 16-year-old. We can see the talent, and it was like it wasn't going to realise it for a little while, and his move to Bayern was not the right time at all for him. And it looked like that was a wasted opportunity. So full credit to him for then bringing that back, but also the people that have grown him and taken him to that stage as well. Because he's just been unreal. And now we want to see him do that for the national team. Him next to Frenkie de Jong, we think is like the future, with Tijani Reijers in front of that. That is hopefully a really, really class midfield that can go to the next level for the Netherlands. And someone that's been a big part of our transformation, if you like, back to being up there with some of the contenders, having missed out on some big major tournaments, Virgil van Dijk. So it seems like 1 minute he's playing unreal stuff for his club, and then always a bit off the board, and he's making mistakes for Netherlands. It's easy at times to get rid of him, move him on. But this season, he's been back to his best.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Michael. I think he has been back to his best. And like you say, it's not been plain sailing for him since that long-term injury. He looked at first like he lost a little bit of pace. And then Liverpool 2 seasons ago really struggled. And as I said, the midfield, the legs went all together, and suddenly he looked very exposed and started to look a little bit ordinary from it. And then people would say, well, is it Virgil, or is it the fact that, he's not getting the protection? But he didn't used to need any protection. He was Virgil van Dijk. He was Superman. And so he was starting to look a lot more sort of human. But I think this year, obviously the team playing a lot better is really helping him. But, he's gone back up a level as well. And I wouldn't say he's quite, the Virgil van Dijk maybe of a few years ago, but he's very, very close. And what he's added to his game is real leadership, and he is the real leader of this side. And after every game, he fronts up and speaks to the media and listen, that's not been too difficult this year because they've more often than not been winning. But to be fair, he's got this contract situation hanging over his head. So the easiest thing to do would be to avoid it, because every time he stops to talk about the Liverpool game, he's obviously asked about his contract, and I think he's running out of ways to say that there's nothing really to report so far. But he still keeps sort of fronting up. I always think with Virgil as well, whoever he plays alongside, he makes look better, and I think that's phenomenal. And listen, Konate's been a really good player for Liverpool this season, especially has looked really good. But I think he does benefit from playing alongside Virgil, just like Joe Matip did, and just like Joe Gomez sort of has as well. And so I think it's a real sign of a great defender that they can lift, whoever they're playing alongside. Quanta, when he was playing well last season too. And so he's a phenomenal leader for us. We love him as a captain. I know it's not necessarily always been the case for the national side, although there's plenty of players who used to play for Holland, of course, who've always got a lot to say. I'm sort of aware of it. It's a tricky place to play sometimes, with praise and criticism, never sort of too far away. But at Liverpool, we love him, and we love him as a player. We love him as a person, and very much as a leader. He's going to go down in history as one of the best captains we've ever had, and we've had plenty. So yeah, hopefully he stays. Hopefully we get him for a few more years, because he certainly looks like he's got it in his legs.
Yeah, he's been, I think, had some criticism aimed at him sometimes because he can look a little. And when I say not bothered, that sounds really harsh of criticism, but it just that slight switch off at times, and then he has to talk to the media afterwards, and he can come with heavy criticism from the Dutch media, but then they do that to everybody. So it's so it's always quite a tough situation to come to because the expectations are so high. It's just a small nation, if that makes sense. Yeah, and I think that's when he then struggles, and it's a difficult environment. Whereas at Liverpool, with it all going so well at the moment, being so cherished, like that has helped him. But then Cody Gakpo has hardly ever come with criticism, and it's also quite hard to drop him with little of a choice in those attacking areas. And Gravenberch comes into a really busy, packed midfield selection, but he looks the most in form right now. So I hope that they can translate their club form again to national level. And to be honest, the criticism that Ronald Koeman's got, and we're not going to hide that. I think there have been times where we definitely want him to be moved on. And I think we're going to miss out on Arne Slot, sadly, taking over as national team coach for a little while to come, with how well he's doing Liverpool.
Yeah, and I think he's here to stay. And listen, Liverpool don't like to chop and change the managers too much. No. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp comes in after sort of 8 years, and managers before that, there's not many who've only been in for a very short time. So, but he's been phenomenal, and it's been a huge shock, really, just how well he has settled. And it's funny because when he came in the summer, a lot of journalists were saying, "Oh, is it a really tough job?" And he said, "No, it's a brilliant job. Look how good the squad is." And he was like, "I understand what you're saying, following Jurgen Klopp," but he said, "I see it very differently. I see it as a fantastic job because look at the quality of players. I've got a squad full of winners, and it's a dream job to walk into." And he's been proven right. And the journalists who and fans, like myself, who thought maybe it was going to be tough following this huge character, of the ones who've been proven wrong, really, he's come in. And what's really impressed people, Michael, is just how much he's been his own man, and he's not tried to be a Jurgen Klopp tribute act at all. How could you be? He's remarkably self-assured, isn't he? And
yeah,
but coming into a club like Liverpool, could have been sort of quite daunting, I think, and following Jurgen Klopp. But I went to his very first press conference. We don't always get to go to these sorts of things, but for something like that, it's a little bit more relaxed. And I went there and was just really impressed with how he just clearly just wanted to get to work. And you can tell he loves coaching. He loves developing players. He loves working with players. He's earned their respect quite quickly. And listen, there's some superstars at Liverpool, some big names, but whenever they talk about him, they respect how honest he is and how much he clearly wants them to develop and improve. And they're a team who, to be fair to them, have got the humility to want to do that. And so it's been a match made in heaven, really. Slot coming in, and I think we never thought I thought it'd be hard to sort of repeat what Jurgen did last year, but it looks like he might sort of do even better, and that's something that none of us were expecting, but all of us are delighted to see.
Oh, John, thank you so much for your time. Anyway, talk about all of that, all of these Dutch influences you've got in your squad now, and also the game that's coming up on Wednesday night. So, thanks for your time. If anyone's watching and is new to Football-Oranje, hit subscribe and see what else we're up to. English language Dutch football site and podcast. And if you get involved in the comments, let us know what you think the score will be for this game between PSV and Liverpool, and your thoughts as well on those Dutch national team players that play for Liverpool now. Such a great contingent. All right, John, thank you so much. People can find you on the Anfield Wrap, can't they? And they can find you on social media.
Yeah, that's right. We're putting plenty of free content out on YouTube and podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from as well. And like you say, Michael, across social media. It's Anfield Wrap with a W.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, John. And thank you everyone for listening.